Good evening, and thanks so much for joining us. I'm Anna Laurel. We start with breaking news in the murder trial against Larry Millete. Larry Millete found guilty of first-degree premeditated murder in the killing of his wife, Maya Millete. Jurors deliberated for about an hour yesterday before breaking for the night. They were back in the jury room by 9 this morning and had a verdict in just hours. Tonight, we have live team coverage of the decision with Jenny Day, Abby Black, and we start with Kelly Hezedal outside the courthouse. Kelly, you were inside as the verdict was read.
Absolutely. And just to describe to you first kind of the chaos that happened before that verdict was read. I mean, it came in around 2:30. We found out a verdict had been reached. So people here in the parking lot just waiting around. Everybody was kind of running around trying to gather people. There were friends of Maya's or Mary Chris's who were out here who didn't know about it. They got Mary Chris on the phone. She was on speakerphone rushing to get here. So once we all assembled inside, you could just feel the tension in the room. And then the moment when it was announced that the jury had found Larry Millete guilty of first-degree murder, it felt like everyone let out just this huge sigh. People in the overflow room, they were crying, hugging, and then they ran upstairs. This crowd of people ran upstairs to the main courtroom where Maya's family was inside, then waited for the family to come out, and they were just cheering. They were hugging. Mary Chris was crying. She was very emotional. She did speak to reporters a short time ago. Take a listen to some of what she said.
Justice probably have been served today, but we still have my sister out there. We still have a second step to go through. We still have to bring my sister home, to bring her to her 3 children that's been waiting for her for 5 years. And we still ask the public for help. Maybe, one of these days we can bring her home.
And she really talked about the fact that this part was just part one. I mean, it took 5 years to get to this point. You imagine the number of sleepless nights that this family has gone through, the number of days they have traveled to court just to have this moment. But yes, part two, as Mary Chris mentioned, now they are trying still to find Maya's body. They still don't know where she is. And through all of this, that's really what they wanted. They wanted answers. Yes, they wanted justice. Yes, today feels like a sense of justice. But at the end of the day, they just want to know where Maya is so that they can bring her home. Justice for her and to give some closure for her 3 children who are still with Mary Chris now and are living with that family. But you can just imagine the flood of emotions that have been going through their minds, their hearts today. It has certainly been a huge day for this family.
Yes, they feel like justice has started, but it is not over yet until Maya is home. Kelly Hezedal, thanks so much for your work on this. A nearly 8-week trial, years in the making. Thanks so much. Now let's turn to News 8's Jenny Day. Jenny, you spoke with one of the jurors as she was leaving the courthouse. She gave us incredible insight and perspective on this. There she is with you now, Beverly.
I know. I am so appreciative, Beverly, for your time. You have been one of the jurors sitting through this 2-month-long trial. We were saying that your heart was beating out of your chest. This is heavy. This is emotional. We understand that Maya is at the center of all of this. So, yeah, how were deliberations for you? I know that's a loaded question.
Well, we took very seriously not to discuss it amongst ourselves, not to do any research, and we 100% kept to that. It wasn't until yesterday when we went into the jury room that we first found out through a 3-minute each juror had to what do they think, that we found out that there is a consensus already that he's guilty, but we didn't know what level. And it was amazing how much each juror paid attention, 100%. We all took this very seriously. We were all exhausted. We would come in, how are you doing? How's the house going in your chores? Plants are dying, things are not. But this was our #1 priority because we owed it to the defendant to listen and to give it everything we did.
It's really been fascinating to see how our judicial system works. Again, 12 strangers choosing the fate of someone. I know the defense repeatedly said, no regrets. You're going to have to live with this. Like, that had to be, weigh on you. And I understand that you all took a vote by paper and really rather quickly was unanimous.
Right, because I felt I can live with my decision. I didn't make decisions for Larry Millete. I'm sorry, but I heard the testimony and the witnesses. I was here to judge the evidence and the witness. It wasn't me. I'm part of the system and was asked to come and sit in judgment. I will say, I noticed on the back of his neck, Larry Millete has a tattoo that says, "Only God can judge me." And I had thought, when I saw that, there's 12 people that's going to be judging you. And it's a heavy thing because I am not God. I do not want to be in the position to judge anybody, but this is our system and this is how we do it. And no, I can sleep at night. I listen to everything. I listen to the prosecution. I listen to the defense, gruelingly, painfully taking it on day after day as we saw each other. And no regrets. I wish May was still here. There was a lot of red flags along the way that we could see, and every red flag was missed, and now May's gone.
I know. Again, this beautiful Chula Vista mother of 3, and they are a religious family, like you mentioned, Larry's tattoo, and we spoke with Larry's mother and father as they were leaving the courtroom today, saying that only Jesus knows, and that was really the only statement from Larry's side of the family. What did you make of his demeanor throughout this case?
I think he's a master manipulator. And I think that he thought that he could get away with this too. We saw what he did with the family, May's family, and the excessive calls, what he did to Genesis. And they finally had to tell him, Larry, we've got jobs, we got families, just excessive. And then when the Wiccans, he even put a stop to him. That it was just, he wanted his way, 100%, and I think he got his way. He has May.
Yeah, and again, he was sending up to 400 requests for spells to be cast the day before that she disappeared. And then they completely stopped January 8th, 2021. Not a single other request. And then January 9th, the spells turned to hexing her affair partner, Jamie Lair.
Yeah, there was extra hexes, and so he asked them, hey, the extra hexes, put it on Jamie Lair. And so, I mean, we knew that he had, like I said, the means, the motive, and the opportunity. January 8th, he was out for 12 hours. 12 hours is enough time, in our opinion, to have taken and disposed of the body. How much time before 6:30 in the morning when he left? Did she die from, her last email? That we don't know exactly when it happened.
And you guys did not have to be unanimous on how you believe Maya might have died. Again, prosecution pointed to gunshots. They pointed to hemlock, this poisonous plant, that a small vial of it was found in the home. You didn't have to be in agreement on that. You just had to be in agreement that it was pre-planned.
Yes, and that he killed her on purpose, however he did it. Yes, and that's what we were tasked to do. And we could see that, yes, he had the means, the motive, and the opportunity to do that.
What parts of it did you struggle with? Like even not having surveillance showing him driving out to the desert to dump her body. Again, that footage was not requested until 7 months after she disappeared. What parts of the case did you struggle with, perhaps?
You bring everything back up to the first week in January. It all culminates there. What happened started in COVID in 2020 by March, and people at home, I made the remark to my husband back in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, this COVID is going to intensify in a home. If there's any problem in a home, it's going to intensify. My husband worked at a hospital, director of materials, and he was considered non-essential at the beginning. And I said to my husband, you need to go back to the hospital. I got a vacuum. Yeah. And the nurse and staff, everybody wanted him back because they found out your director of materials against PPE is essential. And so he went back. But my comment to him was that if there's some problems going on in homes, this is going to intensify the problem. So we see intensity in their home of child care, her working from home. Now, she did have to go out to the base and do hers because of her job. She had a great job, a very powerful job. Right. And he was doing his job. They both had very good jobs. Sure. But no, it's just, you've got to, it's a culmination. It's the 10,000 puzzle pieces, and it was put on the jury table, and we got it over 8 weeks of testimony, each puzzle piece, and we went in there, and because we had paid so much attention, we were able to put that puzzle together very quickly, and it made people like, how can you do that? How do you do it? Because we paid attention, and we were able to put the whole puzzle together, and we are exhausted. This was exhausting. We wouldn't want to wish this on anybody.
Good on you, though. You've done your civic duty. Again, that is how our system works. I saw, again, we were in court together for 2 months, and you guys were taking notes, and you were craning your necks to see certain exhibits of evidence. Is there a witness that sticks out to you?
Oh, well, I wanted to hear from Genesis because it's like, and then, oh, she's a pistol. She'd be a good friend of mine, like that girlfriend. Let's just do this when she, but she didn't recognize the red flag. She didn't recognize what Larry, he was out of this world and where he mentally was. And then Mrs. Laird, you know, she was 2 days before she was going to give birth to her daughter. And she wanted to call May. Your husband is calling. She wanted this drama to stop, just stop. And Larry wouldn't stop. And he's give me her phone number. And it wasn't Larry that called her, it was the aunt's phone. And that's how she answered the phone, because she was getting ready to go on a maternity leave, so she answered it, and that's how Larry got to her. He got what he wanted. And so her reaching out to May, that got me that she was so professional even with all of that.
Yeah, and I'll remind you, Genesis Tabalanza is married to Maya's brother, and she testified that Maya told her, if anything were to happen to me, it is Larry. And then I'll back up and talk about Patricia Laird. This is Maya's affair partner. This is now his ex-wife. Just the timeline of that, even, that she was giving birth to their first baby the night that Maya disappeared. I mean, it's all, and she happens to be a sheriff's deputy, and so much of that came into play too. But then they said, you know, the defense kind of suggested that his alibi was not thoroughly investigated. Didn't make anything of that?
She had complications. Our understanding is after she gave birth, and he was there in the hospital. We had heard that, well, did you investigate? He said he went out and moved the car. And there just wasn't anything they presented to us that would lead us that Jamie or his wife or any other deputy sheriff had anything to do with the disappearance of May.
What did you make of Maya's family? They've been in court day in and day out. I should mention Larry's as well. It was a sea of green today, Maya's favorite color. A mother of 3 who they say would have never left her children.
It was very hard because we couldn't let them know, because it wasn't our duty to give them any wink and nod, nor with Larry's family of what was going. During the first week, I did see them out in the parking lot, and they recognized me and they waved, and it was like I had to go in the next morning to report it to the deputy, because if anybody saw me waving to the family member. And so I am appreciative that the family stopped engaging with us jurors, because it wasn't our place to engage. So I ignored them, because my job was to listen to the evidence and the witnesses.
You were incredibly professional through all of it. I mean, again, each of you just taking the time to take notes and just so thoroughly, just take the case so seriously. What about the conclusion? Again, Larry's demeanor when the verdict was read. Sentencing comes next, facing 25 years to life in prison.
This is the first I've heard of it. I didn't know what that was. I didn't see Larry. They had at the first week positioned monitors and a podium, and so every once in a while he would peek around, and I would see him, or coming into the courtroom. But it was a stoic. It was kind of intimidating, but it wasn't. It was like, we're here to listen to witnesses and evidence. You hang in the balance, true, but it's not about you as a person right now. We've got to hear what has been brought as accusations, and so no. And I didn't see him when it was read. I listened. I watched the judge and listened to the clerk. I wasn't in here for anybody's reaction. We did our job.
And this is a no-body case. Again, Maya is presumably still, was missing up until today. So I think that's also a really emotional part of today, is that the family is getting confirmation that 12 strangers do believe that she is dead. That's a heavy part of it as well. Prosecutors do believe that she was buried in the desert, kind of out near the Colorado River, Quartzsite, Yuma-ish area where the family was familiar. Did that have anything to do with your decision that there was no body?
Where there was no body, we never saw anything come out of the house. We were convinced she didn't go out of the back fence, the black wrought iron fence. Sure. And there was no evidence that she came out the front door, went to the side, to the right or left. There was cameras. Zero evidence of her ever leaving, except for on January the 8th at 6:30-ish in the morning, when he backs that out, starts at 6:01, it's all there in the record, and then he pulls away and he's gone for approximately 12 hours. We think he took her in that vehicle, the Lexus, and he knows where he's left her.
So their young son must have been in the car with him that day.
No. See, we don't know. We don't know where the children are. It wasn't brought into evidence. And that's another thing. Right. We couldn't say. There was questions we had, but around the table was, we can't ask that question. It's not in evidence. Yeah. Where were the children on the 8th? Yeah. I don't know. We don't know.
Do you believe that it was him dragging her in that surveillance image from the garage?
Yeah. The sound that we heard in the court, you heard that, and we listened to that in the jury room. We went back over that. It was possibly what suitcases were missing. She was a very small woman. Did he load it in the suitcase? We figured she didn't go out in the freezer, but did he drag her out? Did he put her on something? That we don't know, and we weren't asked that how did he kill her, and how did he get rid of the body? But he had opportunity, he had the means, he had the strength, he had the vehicle. He was gone the 12 hours, and we never heard of her again since that last sighting on the 7th, and no sign of life to this very day.
Yeah. Again, I appreciate your time so much and the thoughtfulness that you put into this case. Any final thoughts? Anything stick out? Does this now stay with you for the rest of your life?
No, because I didn't do it. I didn't make those decisions. I'm very sorry that he did. I'm sorry that May couldn't get out sooner. I'm sorry for a lot of the red flags that were missed. But you're responsible for your choices, and our system works this way in the United States. We have the greatest judicial system around the world. People fled to our country because we are that great, and it worked. And no, I wish I didn't have to be a juror. I wish I didn't have to answer the summons. Sure. But I did. Yeah. And so no, I wouldn't wish this on anybody, but if you're called to serve, you need to step up and serve, no matter what case you're asked to serve on. Serve.
Yeah, did any questions from the jury voir dire stick out to you with how maybe you've been chosen?
I was talking to a juror and giving me my background, business background, different ones, and he had stopped me. He says, "Beverly, that's why you were chosen. It's your background." So we know that they went. I hope it's under seal. Yeah. I prefer it to stay that way.
Well, we will do that.
Yeah.
Beverly Feldman, one of the jurors here in the Larry Millete murder trial, again convicted of first-degree murder. Appreciate your time so much. Thank you. Thank you. Guys, back to you.
Wow, one of the most unique and important aspects of the United States justice system is the right to have ordinary citizens, your peers, decide a person's guilt or innocence through a jury trial. And we just heard from Beverly that she and her fellow jurors took that job seriously. Thank you so much, ladies. Okay, let's turn now to News 8's Abby Black. Abby, San Diego County District Attorney Summer Stephan shared a statement after the verdict. This was a trial really years in the making, and it's taken weeks now to come to this conclusion.
Well, Anna, during this 8-week trial, we were not able to speak with the Deputy DA, Christy Bowles, about laying out this case and what their tactics were at all. But now that the verdict is in and the jury has convicted Larry Millete of first-degree murder for killing his wife, Maya Millete, in January of 2021. We now know and get a little bit more insight, into Victoria's Day in the sense of may not bring closure. It may not bring Maya back, but it does give them some kind of closure that justice was served. And as you heard juror number 3 talk about with Jenny Day in regards to this overwhelming evidence that proved without a doubt that Larry Millete killed his wife, Maya Millete, you just have to wonder and not wonder, but you just understand just the time that it takes. This trial was 8 weeks, but they've been working on this case for years. And today was the day that it finally came back, and prosecutors, this is what they argued during this 8-week trial, that she had planned to leave Larry Millete, planned to leave the marriage, and they described the relationship as abusive, controlling, and toxic. They also relied heavily on digital evidence, and that's what you heard the jurors say, including searches for date rape drugs and wife training messages, Milliete's communications with online spellcasters, phone records, and surveillance showing that Maya went into the home and never came out. And one major part of the state's case was timing. Maya's phone went dark early on January 8th. Larry's phone was off for roughly 12 hours, and prosecutors pointed to unexplained mileage on the family SUV as part of that timeline. And when we talked to the juror about this case, she says, that was one of the telling things here, is that he went dark. We didn't know where he went. And I said, but there was no body. And she said, they know that Maya Milliete's body is somewhere, and hopefully one day they will be able to find her. And the prosecution just says, what a day it is today.
This case demonstrates that justice does not depend on recovering a victim's body. Circumstantial evidence is evidence, and when it proves beyond a reasonable doubt, the law allows jurors to hold a defendant accountable, which they did.
I was also able to talk to juror number 4 about this case, and you could tell that she was just exhausted. She said that she couldn't wait to get back to her life, but she knew just how important this job was to serve on this jury. And I'd asked her again, how were you guys able to vote on this case? And she said it took one vote. The evidence was overwhelming. So we're going to hear from her on News 8 at 5:30 on our free streaming channel on News 8 at 5:30. So we'll hear from her.
All right, Abby, thank you so much for your work on this. We will continue our coverage of the guilty verdict in the Larry Millete murder case all night long here on News 8.